Hi. The LA Kings are one win away from surprising the world and going to the second round of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. And I have a question for you. What is fair value for Cooper Kupp? What do you pay the guy who caught the game-winning pass in the Super Bowl? Good morning, I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is Faithful Angelenos. It's May 12, 2022. Before we get to all the main stuff about LA sports, feel free to say hello. Making her cameo appearance as always, Cock Blocker the Cat. Hey, if you like the content we've been putting out over the last couple of months, clickety-clack the like button, clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notifications bell. Hit that. We try to put a new video out between 9 and 10 a.m. every day. That lets you know it's there. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And yes, comment. I am not a deity. I am not perfect. By the way, thank you to the new subscribers that joined in. We appreciate you getting in on the ground floor. Before we get to the main topic of Rams football, let's go through the scoreboard and notes for LA. Yesterday, Pittsburgh did the unthinkable. They actually took a series from the Dodgers. They beat them 5-3. Dodgers still up a game and a half in the NL West. Atlanta hands the LA Sparks the first loss of the WNBA season. Final score, 77-75. And in US Open Cup action, the LA Galaxy knocked out something called California United Strikers 3-2. I'm just going to guess the Galaxy rested people for the MLS games over the weekend. Meanwhile, tonight, the Phillies will take on the Dodgers at 7, and Edmonton will take on the Kings also at 7. Now, I want to start off with the Kings, okay? Edmonton is in a hole. They were the big favorites. They are now in a hole because with their season on the line, defenseman Darnell Nurse is suspended for tonight's game. He headbutted Phillip Danault in Game 5. He is their best defenseman. So the question is, how do the Oilers counter that? There is a going line of thought. The traditional way that you set up a team roster for a game is you have 12 forwards and 6 defensemen. The idea is to have Edmonton run with 11 forwards and 7 defensemen. They've done it before. The reason is you would shorten the number of lines that you would normally use from 4, give the top 2 lines more ice time, which makes sense because Edmonton has Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. They're absolutely terrific offensive powers. And also, if you have 7 defensemen, the idea is they're not as experienced, so you're constantly recycling more people in so that they don't get tired, that they don't get overwhelmed. To me, the big thing, regardless of how many defensemen are out there for Edmonton, the Kings have to stay out of the penalty box when it is even strength. 5-on-5, the Kings actually have a goal advantage of 15-13. It's when they are on the power play that Edmonton absolutely destroys them. 10-2 advantage. The Kings have to stay out of the penalty box. There's your key. The Lakers are allowed to interview Golden State assistant Kenny Atkinson for the coaching job. He is the 5th known candidate to allow to be interviewed for the position. Previously, is it even a good position? Anyway, he was previously the head coach of the Brooklyn Nets. There he coached veterans. So I'm not necessarily sure what you would get with Kenny Atkinson. I'm not saying it would be a bad hire, but my problem with him is the same problem that I would have with, say, Mark Jackson. It hints that the Lakers are trying to play like the Warriors, and that is a bad idea. The only team that can play like the Warriors are the Golden State Warriors. If the Lakers try to play like them out there, they will lose. They will lose to the Warriors. It's just that simple. Meanwhile, Yahoo Sports is reporting that an NBA salary cap expert is claiming the Rockets have told the Lakers that they are willing to do a deal for Russell Westbrook at any time during the offseason. The Lakers would get back John Wall, who is often injured. But LA would also have to send a first-round pick as part of the deal to make it a little sweeter for them. I'm not necessarily sure that's going to happen, but that is a deal on the table if you want to get rid of Russell Westbrook that much. The Dodgers. By the way, the loss yesterday, not Ryan Pepiot's fault. He pitched 3 shutout innings. The bullpen just gave it up. The LA Times wrote a weird column this morning. The columnist is like, sorry, Dodger fans, the Angels are the most fun team to watch in Southern California. I don't care. I honestly don't care if you think the Angels are more fun. They may very well be more fun. I don't care about the Angels. I'm a Dodgers fan. I'm not clutching my pearls over which one. Who cares? My wife loves Lana Del Rey. I listen to hip hop and rock and roll. She loves Lana Del Rey. I love what I love. It's life. Who cares? We're adults here. You don't have to apologize. But I'm sure a lot of people will be apologizing to me if the Dodgers win the World Series again. So there's that. UCLA basketball note, guard Jules Bernard has been invited to play in something called the G League Elite Camp. He should go, in my opinion, because if you remember, there was a big board released of 100 top draft prospects for the NBA. Jules Bernard was not on the list, so he needs to make a name for himself. Let's talk about the Rams. Cooper Kupp's probably not the best wide receiver in football, but he had the best year people had seen in a long time last year. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of people would look at Cooper Kupp and say he benefits from the Rams' quote-unquote system. It's not an argument that I always appreciate. I mean, when people knock Joe Montana in the greatest of all time discussion, people say that Montana benefited from the 49ers system. Why do I not always appreciate the argument? Because Tom Brady just had a coach fired in Tampa Bay because Tom Brady wanted his system. If you think about it, every successful guy is a system guy. But if you were to take a look at what people want in a receiver, you would say you wouldn't necessarily put Cooper Kupp on the list. Devontae Adams of the Raiders, you'd say he runs the best routes. Who's the most explosive guy? That's probably Tyreek Hill, who now plays in Miami. Best hands might be Stephon Diggs in Buffalo, but nobody fits his team's concept like Cooper Kupp does with the LA Rams. If the defense uses a man or zone, he still finds his way to get open. He's fearless going over the middle. He doesn't have a lot of drops. He just basically does everything well, even run blocking, which is important to the Rams. The Rams take their wide receivers, they bring them in really tight to the offensive line to give them a little help. And when the Rams run wide, Cooper Kupp seals off his defenseman, and the running back gets free. The Rams have tried to find other receivers to possibly supplant Cooper Kupp. They've tried speed guys, They've had Deshaun Jackson. They've had Brandon Cook. Still Cooper. They've had other receivers who are fantastic as well. They had Robert Woods, Odell Beckham Jr., but when it still comes to crunch time, you're looking at Cooper Kupp. And as a result, the guy nearly broke the single season record for receptions and receiving yards last year. He had 145 catches. He had 1,947 receiving yards. He led the NFL with 16 TDs. He's the first winner of the Triple Crown for wide receivers since Steve Smith Jr. did it in 2005. And as previously mentioned, with the Super Bowl on the line, he copped the game-winning pass for a touchdown. So there's 2 years left on the guy's contract, but you have to reward that guy. You have to. He means too much. But then, of course, the offseason comes up and everything goes crazy for the receiving market. There are now 10 wide receivers making over $20 million a year. Hell, the Chargers have 2 of them. Miami trades for Tyreek Hill and then they give him $30 million a year. So it's out of control. Cooper Kupp makes $14.5 million a year. And he'll be 31 when his deal, by the way, his current one ends in 2024. So how do you find a number and fit it under the salary cap that the Rams are constantly up against? And oh, by the way, they also want to reward Aaron Donald and Matthew Stafford, which makes sense. Would it not? Fortunately, Kupp came out and said he doesn't need to be paid as the number one receiver in ball because, man, $30 million a year would just destroy the team. Now, I'm not a salary cap expert, but I have done my research with what other salary cap experts and agents think. We have multiple ideas. The most crazy one is saying 5 years at 137 million. That's about 27 million per year, and then you guarantee half the total. That's a little extreme, a little bit. Not crazy extreme, but a little bit. Because again, you have to find a way to get Aaron Donald and Stafford under the cap. The guaranteed money is what makes it difficult, because that will always go against the cap, even if you wind up cutting Cooper Kupp. The deal puts Kupp in Devontae Adams territory, right? The Raiders had salary cap space. They brought in a new GM and coach. They get rid of a ton of the roster, and as a result, massive salary cap space. They could fit Devontae Adams. The Rams don't have that leverage. What I found appealing was something that I saw on CBS Sports. They averaged the contracts of the top 3 highest paid receivers, the 5 highest, and then the 10 highest. Then they ran the averages and said, okay, what seems like a good idea? Put Cooper Kupp somewhere in the middle, not at the low end, but not at the high end of elite receivers. And then a player agent came out and he said, you know what? The best idea was probably about a 3-year deal worth about $22 million to $26 million. That's a pretty substantial raise. It puts Cooper Kupp in the top 10 receivers in the game in terms of pay, and you're not killing yourself with a Tyreek Hill-like contract. Now, if you're the Rams, I think you're kind of hoping for that, especially the length of the contract. Remember, Kupp is approaching his 30s, and a few years prior to the Super Bowl run, when the Rams lost to the Patriots in the Super Bowl, Cooper Kupp didn't play. He was injured. You want to make sure you have some even pennies available to try to make sure that you have flexibility in case something bad happens with the guy. But what do you think? What is Cooper Kupp worth? How does he fit under the salary cap? By all means, let me know. If you enjoyed today's episode, then by all means, like and subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We will be back tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching. I'm James. Faithful Angelenos is a Can Corta El Queso production. Have a great day.